the idea of preparing, right? I mean, your kids aren't all of a sudden gonna be great kids. You gotta put some work in up front. That's how it works. Your grandkids aren't gonna be great grandkids, unless people put work in up front. That's the way it goes. But I do think, and this was kind of my point from before. Um, I'm serious. When you think about the way you were raised, okay? You turned out okay. Obviously, you're listening to the show. You must have turned out okay. Um, but just think about how your parents dealt with you is different than how your kids deal with their kids. Just put it in that perspective, right? And you can't tell me that, you know, you can't tell me that if your kids had if you trade to raise kids today the way you were raised, you'd be in jail. Am I wrong? Right? Making the kids do stuff, making them walk to school. I mean, how irresponsible, blah, 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 blah. But that's how it was. And that's what we did. And so how come you didn't turn out all screwed up? Right? How come you actually, you know, get some satisfaction in your life? How is it that you actually know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, how to do the next thing? What made you so capable? Why is it that you can fix things and they can't, right? Why is it? Is it what is it that makes that difference? Let me suggest that that anxiety is that they do half of the things they do out of anxiety because they're worried about stuff, right? I mean, how many people live their lives bouncing from one anxious moment to the next, right? There's even a prayer about that. If you go to Catholic church anyway, go to mass, preserve us from needless anxiety, right? There's things to worry about and there's things not to worry about. And the problem is we get so overwhelmed with everything we're worrying about that we don't worry about the things we should. Like this whole, I was just saying, okay, I'm fat. There you go. I'm obese, whatever you want to say. I am. There it is. Now, I wasn't when I was in the army, but, but that was a long time ago. Okay. But now, but it's not like I'm happy about it. It's not like I kid myself that, oh, this is really good for you. No. But apparently there's a whole group of people out there who are dedicated to convincing people, that if you weigh 350 pounds, you're still healthy. Really? And then I read an article this week, like half a dozen of these people who are out there pushing it, and they're all like under 40, and they all like died in the last 2 weeks of heart attacks and kidney failure. And it's like, oh, for crying out loud. Right. Now I'm not into people needlessly worrying like that or anorexia. I mean, like anorexia used to be a problem. Do you remember that? Poor Karen Carpenter, right? It used to be an issue. Well, now it's the other way around. So take things a little bit easier, why don't you? Just relax a little bit, okay? Don't be so anxious that, if you say this to your kid, oh, they'll hate you forever. They probably won't, right? Because it's the fundamentals that matter the most, it seems like to me, right? The, the- you know, my dad worked two jobs, full-time jobs for 17 years, okay? It was get up in the morning, go to school, right? Because he was a school teacher and then school counselor, right? So he did that all day, and he got home at what 4 o'clock. Took a nap, had something to eat, and went to his other job. Right? He gets home, from what was it, 7 o'clock, is it 7 p.m. to 2 in the morning, or six to two. I don't know, something like that. It was another 8-hour shift. Maybe it was 7 to 3. So I don't know, whatever it was. But the point is that he got home like at 2 a.m. Took a nap, and then started the cycle again. He was not the happiest guy on the weekends. Just a fact of it. Okay? He tended he tended not to be understanding about tools misplaced in the workshop, the wood workshop. just the way it is. But did he love his kids? Was he concerned for his kids? Was he all that kind of stuff? Yeah. So his tactics were terrible. All right. I'm not going to tell you about them. Right. His tactics were awful. But the message came through that he was a guy who really cared. Well, how do you know he cared? Well, 17, you try working 16 hours a day. See how you like it for 17 years until he got a 12-hour day job at the school. They added so many programs, the whole Great Society back in the 60s. They had all these programs. So now he only had to work 12 hours a day, from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, doing everything from breakfast program to community school. So he didn't get off. It wasn't like all of a sudden, you know, he could quit, but you know, he could sleep through the night at least. You know, I think of the frustration that would cause. But so you can understand where he was coming from. The point is, get the big things right. Get the big things right, and they will express themselves. The people say, "Don't sweat the details." No, you should be sweating the details. You should be sweating the details, but only as they come. See, when people say don't sweat the details, it doesn't mean little things don't matter. Little things matter, okay? But if you get the big things right, then you'll do the little things close enough. I guess that's my point, right? So don't get all anxious that you did this thing wrong or that thing wrong. When the tide comes in, the tide's coming in, right? It's going to bury everything eventually. The fact that it goes here, it goes there, it fills this thing first or that thing. Those are the details, right? It's going to happen. So when you're living your life, if it's generally a good life and you're generally looking out for folks, right, especially your family members, good, right? And then don't worry if you say this thing wrong or that thing wrong.